You're listening to the Recovered Life Show, the show that helps people in recovery live their best recovered lives. And here is your host, Damon Frank.
And welcome back to the Recovered Life Show. It is Monday, December 5th, 2022. How you doing, Kristina Dennis?
I'm doing great, Damon Frank. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. We are firmly in December here, moving towards the end of the year.
No denying.
And we're through with Thanksgiving. Tons of great stuff going on in the Recovered Life community. I'm super excited about that. We finally, we have a hard time. There's so much going on in Recovered Life. Sometimes we have a hard time just booking time for the shows.
Right.
So I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad we're able to meet today.
Me too. I have missed seeing you this past weekend. So I'm happy that we're starting out on Monday together. It's awesome.
So thrilled to be here. And, as always, Kristina and I dive into recovery topic, kind of what's going on in our own lives, what's going on in the Recovered Life community, what we're hearing, our opinions on it. And we know that sometimes it's, look, the holidays are exciting. There's a lot of stimulus. It's a lot of fun, but it also could be a lonely time. I wanted to do an episode on this, Kristina, because I think a lot of times people feel lonely in recovery. Yes. They feel lonely, and I wanted to kind of talk about our experience with this and people that we've worked with and, what are the danger signs? Is it a danger sign?
Yes. It's a big topic. And I think a lot of people avoid it because it's like, oh, I don't want to make somebody who's feeling lonely feel worse about it. Or I don't want to tell people I don't have the holiday spirit. I don't want to be seen as a Scrooge. And, I also think it's really important to point out that loneliness can be very different. For a lot of us in newer sobriety, at least this was for me, I had to basically kind of bypass the holidays the first year because everything that I'd done before was around drinking. And I mean, I was truly lonely when I drank. I will say that. I could have been in a bar full of 100 people and often was, and feel like nobody knew me. So that was true loneliness. But that first year of sobriety, it was really hard. I had a little FOMO. I was worried about what people were doing and, what do they think? And if I go to this holiday party, I know we just did our holiday rescue and everybody who came, it's really important. The information's there. I know Damon and I are planning on doing another one, but this is just a swirl of events and emotions. And I think it's important for us to kind of talk about how we have managed our holiday, the times that I've been incredibly lonely, and what to possibly do about it.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting topic because I think there's two parts of this. There is the not having people in your life loneliness, and then there is I'm around a lot of people, but I'm still feeling lonely.
Yes.
And I think this is what's interesting with people that suffer from addiction that are in recovery. It says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a line there. It says that typically there are people that would not get along, right? But yet are all together because they are sober. It is interesting. I find that people that have recovered from addiction can be lonely in a crowded room of everybody that knows and wants them there, right? So there's this two different parts of loneliness. I think when people first come in and they get sober or they come in with codependency and they have a lot of family trauma, right? A lot of things going on, food, sex addiction, gambling, any of this stuff, there is a cutting loose of what's actually been happening in your life in a lot of people, places, and things. So it's not uncommon, I think, especially for the first 6 months to a year, to have a lot of people and things leaving your life.
Yes.
So in one sense, it makes sense. Oh, these people I used to hang out and watch the football games on Sunday with, I can no longer do that because, if you're an alcoholic and they don't accept that there's beer and alcohol around, it might not be the best place for you. So you fade away. So you have to replace that time. So it's like that physical loneliness, right? Of people.
Yes.
But I think the thing that's more prevalent with people in it that are in recovery are people who are recovering from addiction, but are lonely
Mhm.
inside,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the amount of people in their life.
Well, and I mean, when I drank to squelch that. We've had many shows about codependency and how I was being who I thought other people wanted me to be. So they never really knew me. So there was loneliness within that relationship. And then, you get sober and a lot of losses in the beginning. I see people say it, I feel like I lost my best friend, and that feels like it. But then we're still those same people. I used to drink because I felt lonely. I used to drink because I felt awkward and I didn't connect. I'm still that same person, but my solution, which was alcohol, is gone now. And so learning how to be part of, learning how to fit in, learning how to, show up and be vulnerable, that took me some time. And I will say, from my own standpoint, there were some serious sadness around the holidays. For me, there was a lot of childhood trauma. The holidays did not mean the same thing to me as they did to other people. And so, even though I like my own company, I would be sitting at home or having this idea that other people are enjoying the holiday the way it's marketed to us, right? And realizing that somehow I'm falling short. So now not only am I lonely, I'm also a loser who's falling short because I don't have a life that looks like the Hallmark Channel. And I don't think that's just addiction, but I think it's absolutely magnified in addiction. I think that we really feel lonely and are not exactly sure where to connect unless we talk about it like we are right here in Recovered Life. I
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with COVID too, just to throw this in, Christina, is that like I've heard people say that are in recovery that people that had never suffered from addiction
Yes.
were feeling this loneliness, and people in recovery are saying, aha, now you understand what
Mhm.
it's like to feel isolated, right?
Yes.
It's a similar thing. You know, I want to dive into this about and ask you about this about the connection part of it, right? Because you talk about like you're talking about your life and about how you drank
Mhm.
in order to feel that you belong and connect, right?
Yes.
And then you take that away and there's no connection mechanism. It
None.
becomes harder to connect.
It sure does.
Um, and I think, looking back on it, you have to kind of reinvent the way in which you connect with people. And it's so like for somebody like me who I drank and I could do anything.
Mm.
Like I was that guy. Like I felt like drinking made me feel whole and complete.
Mhm.
For people who are not alcoholics, they don't really understand that, but it's
Right.
like it totally worked for me. I mean, alcohol worked for me really well until it stopped working for me. And the issue with it that's so interesting is that I had no problem connecting with people when I drank. But you then take that away and then it's much, much harder for me, right? I feel a lot much vulnerable. I
Mhm.
care about what people think. Now, not so much anymore. You work the tools and you kind of grow out of that. But it's so common in the beginning. I remember it just being like, oh my God, having to go to a party or not know someone or go. First, you have the whole alcohol thing you're dealing with. It's like, oh,
Yes.
please don't ask me if I want something to drink, right?
Right. Or why am
Please.
I
I'm just like, yeah, I just don't put the wine glass down
not? Mhm.
at that table, right? With a group of people. Like, please don't do it, right? Like you're already dealing with that. And now on top of it, it's harder to connect. And I think that's why a lot of people fly out of sobriety very quickly because
It
they're
is.
like, it's just too tough for me.
It is one of the most dangerous times, if not, I think that there are statistics, and I'm not gonna pretend to know them, but this is a high relapse area for people. And, I know for me and my personal story, I had to make peace with the holidays. So, not only was I dealing with the fact that, I wasn't eating lethally anymore, I wasn't drinking lethally, I wasn't, acting out sexually, I wasn't doing any of those things, so I felt a little I felt the pain, the pain was coming up because that's why I drank. And so I had to deal with trauma. I had to put my hand out there. I had to go to places and have conversations with people who were willing to say the truth, which is I'm lonely. My life doesn't look like that. I don't even know how to get from here to there. And by the way, who said that's the way it's supposed to look like, right? Who said that? But it's like the holidays are like living in junior high again, right? Because everywhere you look, you're supposed to be looking like something that isn't necessarily possible. And, some people in recovery, they go on, they have families, they're really excited about it. They get to create traditions that they didn't have growing up. And that's really, really great for them. That wasn't my circumstance. I had reasons why I had to celebrate holidays at a very low key manner, but I have gotten to the place where I don't need a month or a reason to connect with people. And sometimes I can still feel lonely because I'm a little bit on the outside of maybe the groove of the world. But I truly am glad that we talk about loneliness in recovery, because I think people are embarrassed to say they're lonely.
Yeah. And one of the things that I want to talk about on this podcast, because I knew that we would be having this conversation about loneliness and this feeling, is being able to be your own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Being able, right? Like that, there is strength in that, like being okay with your own company. Now, here's the opposite. It was easy to connect with people in recovery. When I was drinking, actually, it was easy to connect with people. But it wasn't easy to connect with myself.
Right.
Right. I was uncomfortable with just me back in the drinking days. Right. Now, I was uncomfortable with me in this early sobriety stage. But now that I am, recovered and have done the deal and all this other stuff, I'm kind of am my own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm my favorite companion, right? And I think that there's some strength in that. Being able to be okay if you're alone for whatever reason, right? Like I can entertain myself.
Yes.
There are times I like to be alone.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But what I found though is that I made that so strong within me that I started to kind of tell myself, well, I don't really need other people right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the dangerous thing. And I shared this at a meeting that we had on Recovered Life. So if you guys are not on these peer support meetings on Recovered Life, go there now, sign up, RSVP, because it is really super powerful. I've learned, even though I am a coach, I've learned so much from just participating in them. Right.
Yep.
And one of the things I've learned that this is very common too, is like feeling, I can go to the mall alone. I could go eat alone. I could go, and I have friends that are not in recovery that would never eat alone. They'd never go to a restaurant and say, oh, I'm coming in, or where they'd be like, I could never do that. How could you do that? And I'm like, I don't really see the big deal. Like the other night I told you I had some work to do and I just had been at home a lot. I just went to a restaurant and went table for one, sat there. I was totally fine with myself because I'm my own favorite companion. Right.
Oh,
but at the
so
same
glad.
time, this dialogue though, and that's good. That's healing. That I'm okay with me, right? Like I don't need to run from me.
Yes.
But at the same time though, this sometimes will create this dialogue of I don't really need other people. I'm totally self-contained. And this is not healthy. And I've learned over the period of time where I would isolate myself because I didn't really need a lot of other people. And that was a mistake. And now I've realized that like I need connection with other people. I can't just isolate and be my own best friend, that
So
I
true.
need other people to connect with.
Yes, yes, so true. I mean, relationships we are here on this planet, I believe, for that connection. And when you get rid of alcohol, it may appear that you were connecting easier, you were fitting in, but really connecting your soul level to somebody else's soul level takes a lot of work, and it takes showing up. And I tend to think that some of this manufactured connection around this time is actually backfiring. And so I love that you brought up that you're your own best friend. I too can spend more time on my own and by myself and really enjoy it. And so I think it's important, and we've said this in Holiday Rescue, we've said it in the group meetings on Recovered Life. You have permission to celebrate the holidays the way that you want to, period. I sometimes I'm not at a place where I want to go to a bunch of events. I usually pick one event. It happens to be a recovery event that I go to, and I really enjoy hosting it. I don't go, I mean, it's at my house, so I can't not go to it, but I remember hosting it every year and just really loving that event. And that ended up being my party, my favorite party. And when I first got into recovery, I would never have believed that. I bought into the whole game of, spending the money on the outfit, spending the money on the transportation, because of course we had to have transportation, going there. And I was a blackout drinker, so I'd black out. And the next day would be all about the autopsy. Who did I embarrass? What did I do in my blackout? It was miserable. But I do think that having the permission to operate the way that you want to operate is important, but also knowing that it is what enriches our life connection. I believe it's the purpose.
Absolutely.
It's the
And
purpose.
knowing how to pick your sober tribe, which we've done a lot of episodes on,
Mhm.
knowing how to pick your sober tribe and who's good for you and who's not is a gift that you get, I think, from staying sober long term.
Yep.
I think really the loneliness issue, where I hear this the most from, actually, Kristina, is I hear this for people that have long-term sobriety.
Right.
I don't hear it as much from people who have new sobriety. I think because you're around so many people and maybe going to so much stuff, right?
Yes.
In early sobriety, that kind of gets washed away. I feel it from people who've worked through the issues.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've done, to kind of combat all of this is I make appointments with people. And
Oh.
I'm starting to do this in advance. And, one of the great things we've done on Recovered Life is you can RSVP for meetings in advance.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what I've been doing. Knowing that I'm going to be at a place and connect with people, and then making the effort to connect with them. Because look, friendships, it's hard work.
It
It's hard
is.
work. It's not for the weak of heart.
It is. I see this all over the place, on social media. I see how do I make friends? Because a lot of times, if you have children, then you will become friends with the parents that your children associates with their children. But that's seasonal, right? They all go away once the soccer is over or once this is over. And you may have your work friends. But truly cultivating adult relationships with other adults does take work. Let's just say it. And, I had a friend text me a couple of days ago and said, let's do a double date for December. And I will be honest, the last thing I want to do is go out in the month of December. But I do love her. And I know it's one of those situations where, I responded, it sounds hard to do. However, you have permission to drag me out of my house and make me have fun. And
Okay, we
so
need an intervention here because if you're blocking off the whole month, if you go, December, it's not really good for me.
Mhm. Yep, that was my response. I'm telling the truth. Like, "Whoa, that seems like a lot."
Yeah.
And, I mean, when we did our Thanksgiving, we kind of had, we talked about the wonderful gratitude last week and doing that, kind of celebrating our own way and what we need to do and how we're truly feeling. And so I'm pretty transparent. People who love the holidays though give me a lot of joy. Like you're a
Yeah.
decorator.
Yeah.
Me, not so much. But you have so much fun decorating your house and sharing about it and sending pictures out that it gives me joy. So I've come a long way with, one, not having unrealistic expectations on myself and others, doing what is right for my nervous system, and knowing that if I have, I heard this once where I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to friends, spending time with the friends that my quarters, my people, and that's enough. And so we have to define what we want, but it does take effort. And I think that's really important to admit on live that I might need an intervention.
Well, you know what's interesting with me is that, of course, alcoholics think all or nothing a lot. It's go big. I'm getting the limo. We're all
Yeah.
gonna go have, like I had a group of, but pre-COVID, I had a group of friends that I met every Thursday, and it was at a 12-step meeting, and we would go out, and then we would all go out to have tacos and burritos after. It was like a thing, right? And it was actually a social thing too. It was recovery, but it was also so, and I would be able to connect with new people, see
Mhm.
people that I've known for a long period of time, right? And I noticed that would give me enough fuel to get through the weekend because I had family commitments and friends there, right? So I had built it now post-COVID, like none of that. Like it just stopped, in Southern California.
It was
That
crazy.
stopped. You couldn't even go out on the street, right?
Right.
So one of the things I've learned with the power of connection, especially over the last decade, is that it doesn't have to be, I think in my mind, it's like, well, these people have to be best friends, have to be this, have to be that. There are different seasons for different connections. And sometimes it's just okay to go to the barista and just ask them, oh, I like your shirt, or how you doing today? Or, wow, it's not as busy as I thought it would be. Just to start connecting with people. And when I'm coaching with people that have really hard time connecting with people and making friends, I just say, show up and ask a couple questions and just listen to
Yes.
what people want to talk, right? And it's interesting, just that little connection with the person at Starbucks, just these going, just, how you doing? What's going on? They look for you the next time. And even though these aren't deep friendships necessarily, right?
Mhm.
They're connections. And this is a
Yeah.
start. You're practicing connecting with people. They're connecting with you. And I will tell you, I feel something out of it. Like a day or
You
two of doing that,
yes.
I feel something there.
It is truly scientific. We talked about this in one of our podcasts about overwhelm, and it's one of the 6 things that you can do to tell your nervous system that you're safe. That it's, we'll think if you are an over anxious person like me, let's say you have co-occurring disorder, you struggle with social anxiety, actually going out and having a random conversation that is mundane tells your nervous system, it's automatic, our automatic nervous system, our that things are okay. And so there's real science behind that. And I love that you give that direction because that's what helps people change physiology, what's going on with them.
And I think one of the, just to kind of end this with the whole loneliness thing, because it's not always a popular topic. People don't
Mm-mm.
really want to say, hey, I'm feeling lonely, or I don't feel like I'm connecting with enough people. But one of the things kind of in this is I think Recovered Life is so great with this because it's virtual, it's on
Mhm.
demand, some of it. You can jump into conversations with people that want to have conversations. And I
Yes.
think one of the great abilities of being sober, one of the great gifts is that connecting with other people who have recovered from addiction is very easy, I find. I could be in a crowded room of people and find somebody else that's in recovery. You automatically feel like you've gone to another level of friendship or connection
Yes.
just because you're with somebody else who is doing the deal and has done the deal. So, Recovered Life is such a great place to do that because you could just jump into these conversations and, start participating, start making friends, start making appointments. Even if you're in a place that you can't meet people face to face, you could do it on Zoom.
Yes, and we did learn that in the pandemic. Everybody did get that huge paradigm shift. They've been saying that for years. That we would be working from home, and but that kind of ripped that Band-Aid off. And I kid you not, the relationships I have found on Recovered Life have been the relationships that when I was struggling, when something was going on, they circled the wagons around me. They showed up. And this is very common in recovery, our family of origin, the place that we came from that kind of set us up for addiction is not safe. And what I do, and I think this is a really important story, is I have a place to go that I go to, my chosen family, they chose me, that always has a Christmas Eve event for my family and my son. And they understand Billy and they know what we need. And having those connections have enriched my life beyond words. I know that it can happen. And so having a little bit of courage, tell somebody you're feeling a little lonely. Or if you don't want to even bring up the L word, do the action to make the connection, because recovered life is there for you, and so are the people in recovered life.
Kristina, Dennis, so thank you so much. Great topic. Guys, if you are feeling lonely, do not suffer in silence. Start telling people what you feel, what's going on with you. There are people out there that want to connect. So everybody go out and live your best recovered life. This is Monday, December 5th episode in the can.
Bye, y'all.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.